life is like a river, with calm stretches, rushing currents, rough rapids, and times of clear, gentle flow. If we stubbornly try to hold on to one tranquil stretch forever, we will sooner or later be utterly disappointed, because the river never stops. Similarly, if we stubbornly cling to an image, a person, or something, we are tying ourselves down in a stream of suffering. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment. When we want everything to go our way, we reject the impermanent nature of life, and thus we bring suffering upon ourselves. But conversely, if we know how to adapt to circumstances, let go gently, and smile in the face of change, our hearts will naturally open up to another door. Living in accord with conditions is not about giving up or surrendering to fate. It is a way acceptance, recognizing that life is always changing, and nothing is permanent. We can only walk lightly when we don't carry too many burdens in our hearts. Imagine, when caught in a sudden rain shower, a stubborn person will complain, get frustrated, and feel unhappy. But a person who adapts to circumstances will smile, open their heart, and welcome the rain as a gift. The rain comes, and the rain will go, but the moment we find ease in that rain becomes a source of peace. Right now, you can pause for a moment, gently close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale slowly. Feel each breath flowing through your body like a river. Each breath is a reminder that we are still alive, and we have the right to choose how we live. We can choose to live heavily with attachments, or we can choose to adapt to circumstances and walk with serenity. Perhaps you are experiencing some worry, an event that makes your heart waver. But tell yourself that this suffering, too, shall pass. Write down one thing you want to let go of today. Even if it's small, that action will help you feel lighter. That is the first step of living in accord with conditions. And when we open our hearts to live this way, we will realize that behind the changes, a quiet current of peace still flows. Life is never just storms. As long as we know how to let go, how to smile, even in a storm, we can still find peace. My dear friend, sometimes in life, we often hear the phrase, life is impermanent. But hearing is one thing. Feeling and understanding is a long journey. Sometimes, it is only when we truly experience loss that we fully realize that nothing around us can be held on to forever. Some people lose loved ones. Some experience shattered love. Some lose careers they thought were stable. At that moment, we painfully exclaim, "Why me? Why did it happen so fast?" But my friend, that's just how life is. Always changing, always in motion. Impermanence is not meant to scare us, but to remind us that precisely because of impermanence, we need to learn to let go at the right time so our hearts aren't tormented too much. One afternoon, Lan, a woman in her 40s, sat by the beach watching the waves. She had just gone through a divorce after 15 years of marriage. For many years prior, Lan had tried her best to hold on, hoping her small family wouldn't fall apart. She compromised. She endured. She pieced together every broken fragment, hoping that one day her husband would change. But the more she tried to hold on to him, the more distant, the colder he became, until he finally let go and left. In that moment, Lan felt her whole world collapse, her heart shattered. That day, as she watched the sea, Lan unconsciously bent down and scooped up a handful of sand. She squeezed it tightly, as if wanting to hold on to every grain. But the tighter she squeezed, the more sand slipped through her fingers and fell away. When she opened her hand, only a few grains remained, the majority lost. Suddenly, a realization dawned on Lan. Life was just like that handful of sand. The more stubbornly you try to hold on, the more you lose. The tighter you grasp, the faster it slips away. Tears streamed down her face, but a spark of light ignited within her. That was the moment she understood that what has gone, let it go. For impermanence is the inherent nature of life. The Buddha once taught that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. What arises, ceases. Everything in this world, from joy, sorrow, prosperity, to suffering, all flows like a river, never stopping. When we want to preserve a state forever, we are resisting that truth. It is this resistance that gives rise to suffering. We do not suffer because things change, but because we refuse to accept that they change. Therefore, learning to let go is not a loss, but a way to find peace in our souls. If you notice, the great sufferings in life often stem from attachment. We cling to loved ones, wanting them to stay with us forever. We cling to love, wanting it to last 100 years. We cling to careers, wanting them to be stable and unchanging. But life promises nothing. Some people pass away at a very young age. Some relationships break up just when they seemed happiest. Some careers suddenly collapse after an unforeseen event. At such times, if we only complain and regret, suffering only piles up. But if we smile and look at the nature of impermanence, we will see that loss is also an opportunity to start anew, to live differently, to open new chapters. You can try a small exercise with me right now. Gently close your eyes, breathe in deeply, then exhale slowly. Imagine you are holding a handful of sand. As you inhale, you feel your hand clenching, as if trying to hold on to something in life. As you exhale, you open your hand, allowing the grains of sand to fall. You won't lose everything, because what needs to stay will remain, like a few grains of sand clinging to your palm. And you will feel your heart lighten, no longer as heavy as before. This is the practice of letting go. A friend once told me that after losing his favorite job, he fell into depression for many months. He blamed himself, blamed life, and blamed everyone around him. Until one day, he read a Buddhist teaching. In loss, there is gain. In suffering, there is the seed of peace. He began to learn to accept the loss, seeing it as a door opening to a new path. Thanks to this, he found another job that was more suitable and had more time to spend with his family. He said that without that shock, he might have walked the same path his entire life, never seeing new horizons. You see, impermanence is not an enemy, but a great teacher. Impermanence reminds us to love while we can, to cherish while conditions allow. Don't wait until you lose something to regret it. And don't try to hold on to what is no longer meant to be. Because holding on only causes more suffering. Let everything come and go, like the wind. When we are not attached, our hearts will find peace. If you are experiencing some pain today, try writing down one thing you want to let go of. It could be an old relationship, anger in your heart, or an unfulfilled dream. Write it down and tell yourself that you accept it has passed. You are no longer clinging to it. Then fold the paper, place it in a quiet spot, as if entrusting your feelings to the universe. By doing so, you have taken a step in letting go. When Lan was able to let go of her broken marriage, she truly felt her heart lighten. She began to learn to love herself, to enjoy the simple things in life. One early morning, she walked to the beach, looked at the brilliant sunrise, and smiled. For the first time in many years, she felt like she was living for herself, no longer bound by the past. And from that moment, Lan began a new journey, a journey of peace through release. My dear friend, impermanence is not scary at all. It only becomes scary when we refuse to acknowledge it, when we stubbornly cling to it in our hearts. But when we understand, when we learn to live purely in accord with impermanence, every event becomes a valuable lesson that helps us grow, helping us grasp the value of each breath, each moment. So, practice letting go, not to lose, but to truly be free. In life, we sometimes hear the phrase tui duyen, adapting to circumstances, but misunderstand it. Some people think tui duyen means to not care, to surrender to fate. But in reality, adapting to circumstances and surrendering are vastly different, like light and shadow, like a bird soaring freely in the sky and a tiny leaf falling in the wind, not knowing where it will drift. Try to think. Have you ever faced a difficulty and told yourself, "Oh well, let life be what it may. I have no strength left to do anything"? That is surrendering. Surrendering is when we lose faith in ourselves, no longer have the will, no longer take responsibility for our own lives. But adapting to circumstances is different. It is when we know to accept what cannot be changed, yet still strive to do our best with what is within our power. It is knowing how to embrace life's changes with an open mind, without resentment, but also without giving up. The Buddha once taught that when conditions come together, things are accomplished. When conditions dissipate, things are lost. We cannot force things when conditions have not yet arrived, nor can we cling when conditions have ended. But in between, we have the right to sow seeds, nurture them, cultivate them. That is adapting to circumstances. It's like when we plant a flower seed in the ground. We cannot force it to bloom on the exact day we wish, but we can prepare the soil, water it, and provide sunlight. One day, when conditions are ripe, the flower will bloom naturally. Not too early, not too late, but at the most suitable time. Nam's story is a vivid illustration. Nam had just graduated from college, full of dreams. But for many months, he sent out job applications without getting hired. Each time he received a rejection, Nam felt his heart grow heavy. His friends were successively finding stable jobs while he was still struggling. Many times, Nam sat in his small room, wondering if he was incompetent. Was life too unfair? There were times he thought about giving up everything, surrendering to fate. But then, one afternoon, by chance, he went to a pagoda with his mother and heard a Dharma talk about adapting to circumstances. The gentle monk said that adapting to circumstances is not about giving up, but about opening your heart to new opportunities, about walking through life with ease, yet full of responsibility. That teaching planted a new seed in Nam. He suddenly thought, instead of endlessly suffering because this door had closed, why not try opening another door? Nam had always loved making drinks, so he decided to save up money, with the help of his family, to open a small coffee shop. Initially, the shop only had a few tables, and customers were sparse, but Nam wasn't discouraged. He meticulously cared for each cup of coffee and every small corner of the shop, seeing it as a way to pour his heart into it. Gradually, the shop began to attract regular customers and became famous in the neighborhood. Nam not only found a source of income, but also found joy in his work. He realized that a career path doesn't necessarily have to follow a fixed pattern. What matters is living meaningfully, with joy. If Nam had given up that day, he might have drowned in despair. But by understanding the meaning of adapting to circumstances, he knew how to open his heart to a new direction. Now, every morning when he stands in his shop, hearing the soft music, watching customers smile as they enjoy their coffee, Nam feels an unusual peace in his heart. You see, adapting to circumstances is not sitting idly by, waiting for luck, nor is it neglecting things. It's like a bird flying in the sky. The bird cannot control the wind, but it can spread its wings to catch the wind. It knows how to fly with favorable winds and avoid headwind. Thanks to this, it reaches its desired destination. And adapting to circumstances is also like that flower. It is not hurried, not forced. It just blooms naturally when the right, beautiful season arrives, captivating people's hearts. Right now, you can try a small exercise. Breathe in deeply, then exhale slowly. As you inhale, think of something you are wishing for, but hasn't come true. As you exhale, tell yourself that you will continue to make an effort, but will not resent it if it doesn't arrive. You are not neglecting it. You are still diligently sowing. But you are also not forcing the fruit when it's not yet the right season. You are practicing living in accord with conditions. Someone asked, does living in accord with conditions make us weak and passive? The answer is quite the opposite. A person who knows how to adapt to circumstances is the strongest, because they have the wisdom to distinguish what they can change and what they must accept. They don't waste energy fighting against what is beyond their control, but they also aren't indifferent to what they can do. They live with ease, responsibility, peace, and progress. If you are facing a closed door today, don't despair. Remember that when one door closes, another will open. The important thing is whether you have enough faith and patience to embrace it. Try writing down a new opportunity you can create for yourself, even if it's small. It could be learning a new skill, starting a healthy habit, or trying a different job. Write it down and start walking. You will see that adapting to circumstances is not about giving up, but a journey forward. My dear friend, adapting to circumstances teaches us to live lightly, but not to give up, to accept, but still to cultivate, to be serene, yet not passive. It is a path that harmonizes acceptance and effort. When we understand and practice it, our hearts will open wider, become more peaceful, and each day will be a gift. So live in accord with conditions, to no longer suffer from stubborn attachment and no longer feel lost by giving up. Have you ever noticed that in life, the more you try to hold on to something, the faster it seems to slip from your grasp? Just like when you hold a handful of sand in your palm, the tighter you squeeze, the more the grains of sand slip through your fingers, and you can't hold on to them. Life is inherently like that. The things we think belong to us forever are sometimes just a brief connection. When that connection ends, no matter how hard we try to cling, it only brings more suffering. Yet most of us often dwell in the current of attachment, wanting everything to go our way, wanting to hold on to what is no longer there, wanting to keep someone who is ready to leave. That desire turns into a burden, and that burden turns into suffering. In Buddhist teachings, the world-honored one repeatedly reminded us that everything in this world comes into being due to the convergence of causal conditions. When conditions are ripe, things come together. When conditions dissipate, they fall apart. We cannot force connections that haven't arrived, nor can we cling to those that have ended. The more we long for, the more we crave to hold on to something, the greater the disappointment. Because longing is fertile ground for greed, and greed goes hand in hand with anger and delusion. And these three poisons are the root of affliction. The more stubborn, the more clinging a person is, the more bound they become, like tying their own mind with an invisible rope. When the mind is bound, even if external circumstances change, that person cannot escape suffering. I want to tell you a very relatable yet profound everyday story. The story of Han and an old love. Han was a sincere, loving girl who gave her all. When she met Min, she believed he was the haven of her life. They had happy days together, dreaming of a home, a small family. But life is not always as we wish. As their feelings gradually faded, Min began to distance himself. He talked less, cared less, and his eyes no longer held the same warmth as before. One day, Min said he wanted to break up. For him, their love had run dry. Their connection had ended. But for Han, it was too great a shock. She couldn't accept it, couldn't believe it, couldn't let go. She tried everything to keep Min by her side. She messaged, called, pleaded, and cried. Han believed that if she just tried a little harder, Min would change his mind. But the harder she tried to hold on, the more distant Min became. His heart had turned elsewhere, towards someone new. The months that followed were a series of endless torment. Han fell into despair, blaming Min and blaming herself. Night after night, she tossed and turned, her pillow soaked with tears. She asked why her sincere love wasn't reciprocated. She was unwilling to let go, but the more she clung, the heavier the pain in her heart became. It wasn't until she saw Min happy with someone else that Han truly collapsed. She knew that all her efforts to hold on were futile. At that moment, Han began to learn to let go. She sat alone, took a deep breath, and exhaled. In that breath, she allowed the pain to flow out. After many such instances, she gradually realized that nothing is permanent. What doesn't belong to you, holding on to it, only causes you suffering. When she let go, she felt her heart lighten, saw the blue sky open before her, and felt her heart could smile again. Han's story is perhaps similar to many of ours. It could be a fractured love, a faded friendship, a job that is no longer suitable, or even expectations we place on our loved ones. We often ask ourselves why things don't go as we wish. Why don't the things we want come true? But the Buddha taught that life is impermanent, and all phenomena arise from conditions. We cannot force everything to go our way, because the nature of life is always changing. Stubborn attachment is the cause of our suffering, because we want something unchanging in a constantly changing world. Try to imagine you are holding tightly to a thick rope, and the other end of the rope is tied to a boat drifting away. The more you pull, the more your hands hurt and even bleed. Only when you release the rope will you be freed. Similarly, only when we let go of stubborn attachment can we smile and move forward. At this moment, I want you to do a small exercise with me. Sit still, place your hand on your chest, and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Feel the breath entering. Then slowly exhale. Feel the breath leaving. While breathing, think of something you are clinging to. It could be a love, a relationship, a dream that is no longer suitable. Breathe in and acknowledge it. Then breathe out and smile at yourself. Softly say, "I did my best. I can let go." Do this 3 times and feel a lightness spread through your soul. You will see that letting go is not a loss, but liberation. When we are willing to let go, we create space for new happiness to sprout. In this life, no one has ever not experienced the feeling of loss. But some people, because they know how to let go, move forward lightly. Others, because of stubborn attachment, prolong their suffering. Letting go does not mean being indifferent or unfeeling. It means respecting the truth of causal conditions and accepting impermanence. This acceptance is the foundation of peace. Because when we stop clinging to what is no longer, we can truly cherish what is present. Look around. There are still so many things to love. The smiles of our parents, the peace of our home, the breath that sustains our life. These are the things truly worth preserving. If you are in some pain, remember Han's story. Remember that the more you cling, the more you suffer. Practice taking a deep breath, releasing it slowly, and smiling at yourself. Each day, write down one thing you want to let go of. Fold that paper and place it in a sacred spot. After a month, you will find your heart lighter. And you will be surprised to realize that the things that once caused you suffering no longer have the power they once did. This is the power of practice, of mindfulness, of letting go. My dear friend, life does not always go our way, but we can choose to live in accordance with the Buddha's teachings. Live in accord with conditions. Do not let stubborn attachment bind your mind. Open your heart. Embrace change as a natural part of life. When you do so, you will find that suffering gradually dissolves and happiness blossoms in every present moment. And more importantly, you will realize that in letting go, you rediscover yourself. In today's hurried life, people often race against time, racing with work, money, and fame. They rush as soon as they open their eyes in the morning. They hastily eat a bowl of rice, quickly drink a cup of coffee, then rush out into the crowded traffic. Their minds are never at rest, always fearful of falling behind others. In this way, some people create pressure for themselves, which then gives rise to impatience, comparison, and jealousy. But try to pause for a moment. Do you ever feel that the faster you run, the more chaotic your mind becomes? And when you are willing to sit down, take a deep breath, and gaze at the clouds in the sky, do you not find your mind more peaceful? It turns out that true peace is not about being better than anyone else, but about knowing how to stop, how to slowly enjoy each present moment. The Buddha once taught that knowing enough is happiness. Those who know enough are rich, while those who do not know enough are poor, even if they have mountains of gold, silver, and jewels. Knowing enough does not mean being complacent or not striving, but it means not letting greed drag you into an endless cycle of comparison and competition. When we slow down, we can begin to appreciate the simple beauty of life. We can see that even a modest meal shared with family is already happiness. Just a hot cup of tea in the morning, a cool breeze blowing across the porch, is enough to bring peace to our hearts. Slowing down is a way for us to return to nurturing our souls, to soothe the fire of anger and delusion within us. I want to tell you a story about Uncle Two and a cup of tea. Uncle Two was a farmer who spent his entire life connected to the fields. His life revolved around the harvests, year-round, knowing nothing but plowing and planting. He was diligent, but his heart was always filled with comparison. If his neighbors had a better harvest, he felt annoyed. If someone bought a new car, he felt inferior. If he saw neighboring children studying better, he was secretly sad. And so, Uncle Two's life passed in fatigue and endless sighs. People told him he had everything, enough land, devoted children, yet he never felt content, because his heart was always filled with an insecurity called better than or worse than. One day, he fell seriously ill, his body tired, and he couldn't go to the fields as usual. His children worried and told him to rest. During those days, for the first time in his life, he sat quietly on the porch, brewed himself a hot cup of tea, and watched the steam rise. He looked at the clear blue sky, watched the leisurely clouds drift by, saw birds flapping their wings towards the bamboo thicket, and suddenly felt an extraordinary tranquility in his heart. The fragrant tea, the rustling leaves in the wind, and the silence of the rural afternoon all seemed like a soulful symphony. He suddenly realized that for so long he had been chasing endless comparisons, forgetting that happiness could sometimes be found right in such a simple cup of tea. He exhaled with relief, smiled, and for the first time in many years, felt peace in his heart. After recovering from his illness, he was no longer as hurried as before. He still worked, still tended his fields, but he no longer compared himself much. When he saw his neighbors having a good harvest, he congratulated them instead of feeling jealous. When he saw people buying things, he just smiled and told himself that having enough to eat and wear was already happiness. He spent more time sitting, drinking tea, and chatting with his children and grandchildren. He watched the rural scenery change with each season. People noticed he was gentler, less irritable, and he himself found his ailments receding, his sleep more sound. His life became lighter, no longer as heavy as before. That story made many people in the village also remind themselves to lessen comparison, because happiness. Sometimes it's as simple as a cup of tea on a quiet afternoon. Hearing Uncle Two's story, we clearly see that peace does not come from comparison. Comparison only makes the heart more restless, while knowing enough makes the heart joyful. Slowing down helps us feel every small joy. It could be the clear laughter of a child, the faint scent of a gardenia at the end of the alley, a raindrop falling on the eaves. These things, if we are too rushed, we will never notice. But when we slow down, our minds settle. We will see life filled with wonder. At this moment, I want to invite you to practice a small exercise. Put down your phone, sit still, take a deep breath, feel the cool, refreshing air entering your lungs, then slowly exhale, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your face. If you can, close your eyes and imagine you are sitting in front of a hot cup of tea. You bring the cup to your nose, inhale gently to smell the aroma, then take a small sip, allowing the tea's flavor to gradually permeate your tongue. In that moment, you no longer think about work, no longer think about comparison, but simply live fully with the cup of tea. You will feel your heart settle. Feel a small joy spreading throughout your body and mind. When we live slowly, we learn to be grateful. Grateful that we are still breathing, still alive for another day. Grateful that our parents are still with us, or at least we still have beautiful memories of them. Grateful that every morning we wake up, we still have eyes to see the sunlight, feet to walk, ears to hear the birds sing. When we are grateful, we naturally become less irritable, less competitive, because we realize that life itself is already a precious gift. We don't need much more to find happiness. Just knowing enough, knowing how to stop, we already have peace. If you are struggling amidst a busy life, I hope you will try to practice slowing down a bit. Try to set aside 15 minutes each day to sit and breathe, to walk leisurely, to drink a cup of tea mindfully. You will see life open up in a different way, the things that used to make you irritated. Comparisons may sometimes become trivial matters not worth bothering about. You will find your mind calm down, and in that gentleness, happiness naturally blossoms. The ancients said, "Tri tuk tien tuk." To know enough is to always have enough. If you want to be free from suffering your whole life, remember the Buddha's teaching. Knowing enough is happiness. Don't compare yourself to anyone, because everyone has their own path, their own causal conditions. Cherish your blessings. Live slowly to see that every present moment is precious. When you do so, you will see anger and delusion gradually disappear. Your mind will be less agitated, and peace will manifest in every breath. Have you ever noticed that some small things in life become a burden if we remember them forever? But there are also things that seem small. If we know how to cherish and keep them in our hearts, they become a source of lifelong comfort. We all have memories, but memory is not always a gift. Sometimes it is a chain that binds us in suffering, especially when we constantly recall things that hurt us, words that offended us, or times when someone didn't treat us well. We carry these things, repeating them in our minds, and thereby bind ourselves with resentment. In the Buddha's teachings, there is a very simple yet profound truth. Know what to remember and what to forget. What is worth remembering are good deeds, kind hearts, and the favors we have received. What needs to be forgotten are mistakes and things that add to our troubles. Because if we keep nurturing the seed of hatred, we only water more suffering. But if we cultivate the seed of gratitude, our minds will be lighter, and our lives will be happier. I want to tell you a story about an ordinary woman in the countryside whom I once met. Her name is Mrs. Nam. She is over 70 this year. She lives with her son, daughter-in-law, and several small grandchildren. From the outside, her family seemed peaceful, but her heart was filled with many worries. It happened that once, her daughter-in-law, in a busy moment, uttered a few words that offended her. The words weren't overly harsh, but Mrs. Nam remembered them forever. Every time she saw her daughter-in-law, she would recall those words, and her heart would feel heavy, thinking her daughter-in-law was thoughtless and disrespectful. This memory grew larger and larger until she no longer found joy in her family. Then, one day, following friends, Mrs. Nam went to a pagoda. That day, the abbot gave a Dharma talk about adapting to circumstances and letting go. He said that people often remember what hurt them, but forget the kindness they receive every day. He reminded them to practice remembering good things and forgetting resentment. If we hold on to resentment, it only harms ourselves. But if we know how to let it go, our hearts will open up, and family affection will become warmer. Hearing this, Mrs. Nam was startled, as if someone had knocked on her heart. She remembered the days she was sick. It was her daughter-in-law who stayed up all night to care for her, cooking porridge and preparing medicine. She remembered when her young grandchild was sick. Her daughter-in-law ran around everywhere, worrying, and also took care of meals for the whole family. Yet, she chose to only remember the few words that upset her, forgetting all the good things. She felt she was being unfair to her daughter-in-law. That day, on her way home, she decided to practice letting go, to practice forgetting things not worth remembering. And instead, she quietly reminded herself to remember the kindness and warm moments in her family. From that day on, Mrs. Nam changed a lot. She no longer brought up old stories, nor did she harbor resentment in her heart. She began to express gratitude to her daughter-in-law, began to remember the things her daughter-in-law had done for the family. Since she changed her way of remembering and forgetting, the atmosphere in the house became lighter, the family atmosphere warmer. Her daughter-in-law also sensed this change and loved her more. People often say that when one person knows how to open their heart, the whole family benefits from peace. Mrs. Nam's case was exactly like that. That story teaches us a simple yet very valuable lesson. We cannot control everything others say or do, but we can choose what to keep in our minds. Remember good deeds to nurture gratitude. Forget resentment to keep your mind at peace. That act of remembering is the source of peace, and that act of forgetting is the medicine that heals the wounds in your heart. If you are listening to this story and are thinking of someone who once made you sad, I invite you to try a small exercise. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. Then, as you exhale, imagine you are setting down that resentment. Don't try to chase it away. Just gently set it down, as if releasing a stone from your hand. After that, think of at least one good thing that person once did for you. It could be a small act of kindness, a warm word, or simply their presence in your life. Let that good thing remain in your heart. Do this a few times, and you will feel lighter. And then that resentment will gradually disappear. You see, remembering and forgetting are also choices. Every day we face so many events, but we are the ones who decide what will become a memory that nourishes us and what will merely pass by like the wind. If we keep holding on to the heavy stones of the past, we will have no strength to move forward. But if we know how to put them down, how to remember the kind flowers along the way, then this journey will become so much lighter and more joyful. Life is inherently full of impermanence. People come and go, rejoice and grieve, gain and lose. Nothing lasts forever. If we stubbornly cling to an old wound, it's like repeatedly scratching that wound ourselves, preventing it from ever healing. But if we know how to breathe, how to smile, how to remember good things, the wound will close, leaving an imprint of growth and compassion. Try this one evening before going to bed. Sit in silence. Write down 3 good things you received today. It could be a greeting, a smile, a small help. Write them down and remember them. Then write down one thing that made you sad. Then look at it and quietly say, "Thank you for teaching me a lesson, and now I'm letting it go." Fold the paper and set it aside. This is also a way to practice remembering good and forgetting resentment. Gradually, you will find your mind transforming. I want to convey that learning to remember and learning to forget is not something profound. It is simply a daily choice, the cultivation of conscious memory. When we remember kindness, our hearts will be filled with love. When we forget hatred, our lives will be light, like clouds drifting by. This is also the path that the Buddha taught. Live in accord with conditions. Let go of stubborn attachment so that both you and those around you may find peace. Have you ever realized that each of our days passes so quickly that often we don't even have time to feel how we are breathing? In the rush of work, in the traffic jams on the road, in moments of fatigue, we often forget that just a gentle breath can soothe our souls. People often fixate on the past or worry about the future, forgetting that true peace is only present in the current moment. That is mindfulness, the return to now, where there is a smile, a gaze, and each breath that sustains our life. In Buddhist teachings, mindfulness is likened to a lamp that illuminates the soul. When we live in mindfulness, we recognize our emotions, understand our body and mind clearly, and know how to cultivate happiness from even the smallest things. The Buddha once taught that all phenomena in this world are impermanent. Our body and mind are also impermanent. Therefore, if we do not return to cherish the present moment, we will forever lose the opportunity for peace. Mindfulness also helps us clearly see the roots of greed, anger, and delusion, the 3 fires that often burn people's hearts. When we are mindful, we clearly see anger arising. We recognize worry present. From there, we are no longer dragged away by them. There's a small story about a man named Loy. He was a driver, daily connected to crowded roads, bustling traffic, blaring horns, and seemingly endless traffic jams. Every time he was stuck in traffic, he would get angry, his face flushed, his heart pounding. He often came home tired, no longer patient enough to speak gently with his wife and children. But then one day, he happened to hear the teaching. Breathing in, I know I am breathing. Breathing out, I smile. He tried to apply it right then, stuck in a sea of cars. At first, it felt forced, breathing in deeply, exhaling slowly, then gently forming a smile. Strangely, after just a few breaths, the anger seemed to subside. He began to observe the faces of the people around him. Everyone was tense and frustrated, just like he used to be. And at that moment, he suddenly felt pity, felt empathy, and his heart softened. From then on, he decided to make it a habit to breathe mindfully every time he was behind the wheel. When he saw a red light, instead of cursing fate, he took a deep breath, reminding himself that he was still alive, still breathing, still present here. When someone cut him off, instead of yelling, he gently smiled, thinking that perhaps they were also in a hurry for some reason. Gradually, he returned home in a lighter mood, able to spend time eating dinner with his family in joy, talking to his children with a gentle gaze. He realized that mindfulness had changed his life from someone who was easily angered to someone who knew how to listen and love. Loy's story is not unfamiliar. In daily life, if we just practice pausing for a moment to breathe, we will find that everything changes. When washing dishes, we just wash dishes, listening to the sound of running water, feeling the warmth in our hands, grateful that we still have dishes to wash. When walking, we just walk, feeling our feet touch the ground, hearing our steady breath, gazing at the trees along the road. When eating, we just eat, chewing slowly, clearly tasting the flavors, feeling grateful for the sweat of the farmers, for the earth and sky that nourished the rice grains. All these seemingly simple things are mindfulness. You can try it right now. Sit still, relax your entire body, gently close your eyes. Inhale. Know that you are inhaling. Exhale and truly smile. Don't try to chase away any thoughts. Simply acknowledge its presence, then return to your breath. If your mind wanders to the past or worries about the future, gently invite it back to the present with a deep breath. You will find your heart lighter, your burdens gradually dissolving. Mindfulness does not demand that we abandon our current lives, nor does it require us to go to faraway forests and mountains to practice. Mindfulness can be present in every step, in every gaze, in everything we do daily. It is this complete presence that creates peace. When we live with mindfulness, we see that happiness is not far away, not something to wait for until tomorrow, but right in this moment, in this breath, in this smile. One afternoon, as the sun sets, gentle sunlight stretches across a small alley. Try to pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Feel the warmth spreading. Or when you look into the innocent eyes of a child, you see a world full of hope and love. These are all miracles of mindfulness. If we don't stop, if we keep rushing through life, we will pass by all these beautiful things without ever knowing. So, practice slowing down so that each breath becomes a song, each step becomes a flower, each smile becomes a gift. Don't let today just pass in a rush. Instead, let it be a complete day. Because life is impermanent. Who knows if tomorrow will still be here or lost. Mindfulness is the key that brings us back to the present, helping us abide in true peace. My dear friend, remember that mindfulness is not a distant concept. It is the breath you are taking, the smile you can give, the loving gaze you can offer to your loved ones. And once you live in mindfulness, you will realize that peace is not something to seek, but something you already hold. Cherish every moment, thank life, and let mindfulness guide you back to yourself. Perhaps in life, all of us have experienced moments of being hurt by the words or actions of others. Sometimes it's an unkind remark from a colleague, an unfriendly glance from a neighbor, or some misunderstanding that weighs heavily on our hearts. These memories are like deep scars, leading us to carry resentment, blame, and even cultivate hatred. The more we think about it, the more we feel injustice and suffering. But have you ever asked yourself if it is precisely this stubborn clinging to resentment that binds our souls in chains? Because when we hate someone, our heart becomes a place filled with poison, and the other person might not even know it. So who suffers more, if not ourselves? In Buddhist teachings, the Buddha once taught that if we harbor hatred in our hearts, it is like holding a burning coal, wishing to throw it at others. But in the end, we are the ones burned first. He also taught that a grateful heart and a compassionate mind are the keys to opening the door to peace. When we are grateful, we see life as abundant. When we are compassionate, we free ourselves from the shackles of hatred. Causal conditions in life are inherently impermanent. All people make mistakes at times. If we keep clinging to others' mistakes, we will never find peace. Only when we open our hearts to forgive do we truly find liberation. There is a story about a woman named Huang. She lived in a small neighborhood next door to someone who often spoke ill of her behind her back. These words were passed around, making Huang sad and angry. She felt offended and lost trust. Every time she saw that neighbor, Huang's heart would seethe, filled with resentment. She didn't want to greet them, didn't want to look at them, and even often wished bad things would happen to them to satisfy her anger. Yet, her heart remained restless. The more she thought about it, the more frustrated she became. Then one day, that neighbor fell seriously ill. Hearing the news, Huang was conflicted. A fierce struggle raged within her. One side urged her to ignore them, because they had caused her pain. But another side reminded her that if she continued to harbor hatred, she would be the one suffering. After much deliberation, Huang finally decided to visit. She bought some fruit and entered the house feeling hesitant. When she saw Huang, the neighbor was surprised and burst into tears. They tearfully apologized, confessing that previously, out of jealousy and misunderstanding, they had spoken cruel words. Now, being sick, they realized how short life is and understood the mistakes they had made. Huang was silent for a moment, and all her resentment seemed to melt away. She took the neighbor's hand and smiled in forgiveness. From then on, the two became close, able to chat, share, and care for each other, like sisters. That story is a testament to the power of gratitude and compassion. When Huang chose to forgive, not only was her neighbor liberated, but she herself also felt lighter. Instead of clinging to hatred, she opened her arms, and thanks to that, a beautiful friendship was formed. Gratitude helps us see that life still has many things worth cherishing. And compassion helps us erase the emotional scars in our hearts. You can try a small exercise right now. Sit still and think of 3 things you are grateful for today. It could be a warm meal, a kind inquiry from a friend, or simply the breath that sustains your life. As you write down or quietly recall these 3 things, you will feel your heart soften, feeling much luckier than what you used to complain about. And besides that, choose to forgive a mistake, perhaps of someone who once made you sad, or you can forgive yourself for some past error. Forgiveness does not mean condoning the wrong, but allowing yourself to no longer be bound by it. In every moment, as you practice gratitude and compassion, you will realize that the world around you becomes gentler. People are not as hateful as you thought. Life is not as harsh as you once perceived. Everything gradually brightens, and you are the one who walks most freely. You will smile more easily. You will say thank you more naturally. And you will see that love is everywhere. Life is inherently short. There are things that if we hold on to hatred, we will only waste our days. But if we choose gratitude, we will see each day as a gift. If we choose compassion, we will find peace in our hearts. When we are grateful to those who have given us opportunities to learn lessons, grateful even for adversity because it helps us grow, then this life will become more complete. And when we are compassionate towards others' mistakes, we are also compassionate towards ourselves. Because within us, there are also moments of error, moments of clumsiness. My dear friend, starting today, try to slow down. Make it a habit every night before bed. Remember 3 things you are grateful for during the day. They can be small, they can be ordinary, but cherish them. Then each week, choose one person with whom you still have an unresolved issue in your heart. Think of them with a compassionate mind. Practice forgiveness. Practice letting go. You will be surprised to find the burden in your heart lifting. Peace will gradually return. And remember that gratitude and compassion are not just about giving, but also receiving. Because when you sow understanding and forgiveness, you will receive love and peace. As the Buddha taught, hatred cannot conquer hatred. Only love can conquer hatred. Let love arise from within you, so that each day is a day of peace. In this life, all of us have relationships filled with many memories, much attachment. Sometimes it's a childhood friendship, sometimes a love that once stirred our hearts, or perhaps a companionship with colleagues, family members, or even a teacher, a student. At first, we think these relationships will last our entire lives. But then one day, we realize that some people are no longer by our side. That feeling brings disappointment, heartache, even blame or self-reproach. Some people lose sleep, unable to accept that a friendship, a feeling, has come to an end. There was a man named Khan who had a close friend named Kwan. From childhood, they grew up together, played childhood games, shared every piece of cake, every dream, every secret that only best friends understood. But as they grew older, Kwan changed. He began to have his own interests, new friends, new paths. Khan initially didn't understand. He tried to hold on, tried every way to make their friendship return to how it used to be. But the harder Khan tried, the more distant Kwan became. In unanswered calls, in text messages that no longer received warm replies, Khan felt an emptiness in his heart. Those days, he lived in sadness. He asked himself, why is this happening? Why would a beautiful friendship fade away? Did I do something wrong? Am I not good enough? These questions repeated in his mind, causing Khan more suffering. One day, he accidentally read a passage from a Buddhist scripture about impermanence. All conditioned phenomena are impermanent, arising and ceasing, constantly changing. Nothing is fixed. When he read this, he paused and reflected. He understood that nothing in this world lasts forever, not even the relationships we consider the strongest. People come together due to causal conditions, and also part when those conditions end. From then on, Khan began to see things differently. He no longer blamed Kwan, nor did he torment himself. Instead, he started to look back at the years they spent together, the innocent childhood memories, and quietly offered words of gratitude for having a companion for a part of his life. He understood that Kwan came to teach him about sharing, about friendship, about a beautiful youth, and Kwan left to teach him about letting go, about loving himself, about inner growth. One afternoon, thinking of Kwan smiled, and in his heart, there was only a wish. May you find peace on your own path. Through that story, we see that in relationships, if we stubbornly cling when the connection has ended, we only cause ourselves more suffering, like gripping a rope pulling in the opposite direction. The tighter we hold, the more our hands bleed. But when we know how to let go, we truly find relief. The Buddha taught that everything in this world comes into being due to causal conditions. When conditions are ripe, we meet and accompany each other. When conditions end, we separate and part ways, not to blame nor to grieve, but to appreciate the time that has passed and to learn to live fully in the present. If you are sad because someone has left you, I invite you to try taking a deep breath. As you inhale, feel the life present within you. As you exhale, quietly release a heavy part in your heart. Close your eyes and remember that person with a smile, not to cling, but to express gratitude. Thank you for once being a part of my life. Just that one word of gratitude. You will feel your heart warm, no longer the pain of separation, but a gentle peace. Life is inherently a series of meetings and partings. When people come, we welcome them. When they leave, we bid them farewell with a smile. Don't see departure as a loss, but as an opportunity to return to caring for yourself, to learn to stand firm without needing anyone to stay forever. When we know how to live in accord with conditions in relationships, we will find our hearts open wide. We learn to cherish every moment of companionship and are also strong enough to smile when that person goes afar. You can try another small exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down the names of people who have passed through your life but are no longer close. Next to their names, write down one good thing they brought into your life. It could be a memory, a lesson, an act of help, or simply a smile. When you're done writing, fold the paper, place your hand on your chest, and quietly say, I cherish what has passed. I am grateful, and I let go. This simple gesture will help you learn to see relationships as gifts, not as burdens to be held on to forever. Living in accord with conditions in relationships does not mean being indifferent or unfeeling. On the contrary, it is appreciation when conditions exist and release when conditions end. It is an awakening, a mature way of living full of compassion. When you can do this, you will see that no one truly leaves you. They are just people who pass through, give you a gift, and then continue on their own journey. As for you, you are also on your own journey. There, new encounters, new causal conditions await. So instead of blaming why they left, let's learn to be grateful that they once came. Instead of clinging to hold on to what is no longer meant to be, let's learn to let go, to keep our hearts at peace. Life is not long. Devote time to love, to smile, to be gentle. One day, when we look back, we will see that these very encounters and partings taught us to grow, gave us a heart that knows how to love, accept, and be serene. Adapting to circumstances in relationships is the path to freeing your heart. The more you cling, the more you suffer. But when you let go, when you smile, when you know how to cherish and be grateful, you will find an unusual peace in your heart. Have you ever noticed that in the most ordinary moments, the smallest things are often what make us angriest? A child refusing to eat, a thoughtless word from a loved one, a careless action at work. All can become tinder that sets our hearts ablaze, anger coming quickly and intensely. And if we don't recognize it in time, it will make us say things we later regret, do things that later leave us with remorse. Someone once said that anger is like holding a burning coal to throw at others. But before you throw it, your own hand is already burned. In Buddhist teachings, anger is considered one of the biggest fires that burn away human happiness. The Buddha taught that when a person gets angry, their face changes, their heart beats fast, their breath becomes rapid, and their entire body is covered by negative energy. If this anger is not recognized and transformed, it not only causes suffering to others, but also burns oneself. Some families break apart just because of a fit of anger. Some friendships drift apart because of a slip of the tongue in a moment of anger. Some people regret their entire lives for not having been able to control themselves in time. There was a woman named Mai. She was a mother who loved her child dearly, but also often got angry with her young child. The active child often broke things and misbehaved, making her tired. Each time, she would scold, sometimes even shouting very loudly. One day, after a stressful day at work, she came home to find her child had spilled a cup of milk on the floor. Ms. Mai screamed, her eyes full of anger, looking at her child. The child was scared, tears streaming down, standing cowering in a corner, not daring to say a word. At that moment, Ms. Mai suddenly felt a pang in her heart. The image of her tiny child trembling before her mother's anger woke her up. She remembered the teaching of a master she had once heard. When anger arises, breathe in and silently say, "I know I am angry." When breathing out, silently smile at that anger. She tried to follow it. She took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, feeling the heat coiling in her chest. Then she inhaled again, exhaled again. And in her mind, she said, "I know I am angry. I smile at my anger." Strangely, after just a few breaths, she felt her heart soften, her voice no longer harsh. Her tightly clenched hands relaxed, and she walked over to hug her small child. The child sobbed, but then buried her face in her mother's shoulder, gradually calming down. At that moment, Ms. Mai realized that if anger is not stopped, it is like a storm, sweeping away everything in its path. But if we know how to return to our breath, how to smile at anger, that storm can turn into gentle rain or even dissipate. Anger is a natural part of human beings. None of us have never been angry. But the difference is whether we let anger control us or if we know how to recognize and transform it. The Buddha once taught to conquer anger with compassion. This means that only love can soothe anger. When we breathe in mindfulness, we are sowing the seed of compassion in our minds, and that seed will gradually dissolve the fire of anger. You can try a small exercise right now. Sit still, place your hand on your chest, and close your eyes. As you inhale, silently say, "I know I am angry." As you exhale, silently smile and tell yourself, "I smile at my anger." Practice this 3 times, and you will feel your body and mind calm down. This is not suppression, but embrace. You are not chasing away anger, nor are you letting it rage. You are simply gently recognizing and smiling at it, just like a mother who holds her crying child, comforting them until they calm down. When we practice letting go of afflictions, we are not losers, but victors over ourselves. To conquer 100,000 armies in battle is not equal to conquering one's own mind. The Buddha once taught this. A person who knows how to release anger is a person with immense inner strength. They do not let words or actions spoken in anger destroy what they have painstakingly built. They know how to keep their family warm and peaceful, their mind at peace, and their relationships stable. In daily life, there are many occasions when we need to remind ourselves of this lesson. When stuck in traffic, instead of getting irritated, we can take a deep breath and think that everyone is in a hurry. Everyone has their own worries. When we hear someone say something unpleasant, instead of retaliating immediately, we can take a breath and smile, telling ourselves that those words are just a passing breeze, and we don't need to hold on to them in our hearts. When our children misbehave, instead of scolding them, we can remember that they are also learning to grow up. Each time we do this, we release a burden. Affliction is not external. It is within our own minds. When we know how to look directly at it, to smile at it, then that affliction will dissolve. Releasing afflictions does not mean avoidance, nor does it mean denial. It means looking deeply, understanding clearly, and then letting it go. I want to invite you to do one more practice. Take a pen and paper and write down 3 things that made you angry most recently. It could be a remark, an action, a situation. After writing, read them again and try to look at them with the eyes of understanding. Ask yourself, how much did that person suffer to say that? Is that situation really worth burning myself with anger? Then continue to write. I choose to breathe, to let go, to smile. When you fold that paper, you will feel your heart much lighter. My dear friend, life is already tiring enough. Don't let unnecessary anger weigh you down further. Anger is a fire that burns itself, but if we know how to let it go, we will find peace again. Living in accord with conditions is also like that. Knowing how to recognize anger when it comes, and then gently letting it go, without clinging, without resisting. When we can do that, we will find each day more peaceful, each relationship more beautiful, and more smiles in our hearts. So next time anger arises, don't rush to speak. Don't rush to act. Take a deep breath, exhale slowly, and smile. Anger is not an enemy. It is just a crying child in your heart. Embrace it with mindful breath to let it calm down. That is the practice of releasing afflictions that the Buddha transmitted, the path that leads us to true peace. Have you ever found yourself caught in life's sudden storms? Sometimes it's a family crisis, a conflict at work, or simply a day filled with fatigue. Everything piles up, making you want to give up. Often, when storms hit, our minds also churn like a tempest, unable to maintain clarity. But strangely, if we can keep a calm mind, even in the midst of the storm, we can see a way out. Staying calm doesn't mean being weak, much less being submissive. Calmness is wisdom, the ability to clearly see a problem, to know what needs to be done, and what should be let go of. Try to imagine a bamboo tree in a strong wind. The bamboo tree does not rigidly confront the storm, but knows how to bend with the wind. Thanks to its flexibility, bamboo rarely breaks. In contrast, large, rigid trees can be uprooted after just one stormy night. Humans are the same. There are times when we need to learn to be flexible, to take a step back, to take a long breath, and then from there, to stand stronger. The Buddha once taught that when the mind is at peace, the external world is also at peace. External storms cannot stir us when we are calm within. In the supreme teachings, all changes have a reason to occur. No storm lasts forever, just as no joy is permanent. When we cling to stability, we panic when instability arrives. But if we know beforehand that everything is temporary, our minds will naturally become less agitated. Often, it is precisely calmness that helps us see the deep, causal conditions of events, to understand that suffering is also a part of life's growth process. With wisdom, we no longer resent adversity, but see it as a rain that washes away the dust from our hearts. I want to tell you a very relatable story about a farmer whom everyone in the village respected. His name was Ba, and he lived in a rural area in central Vietnam, a region of year-round storms. That year, a major storm was predicted to hit, and the whole village was in a commotion. Some rushed to buy food, others ran to find shelter. In that chaos, Uncle Ba slowly instructed his children and grandchildren to reinforce the roof, tie down the pillars, and told everyone to prepare some dry food and clean water. When all necessary tasks were done, he sat down to drink a cup of tea, calmly watching the rain and wind approach. The children in the house worriedly asked him why he wasn't as anxious as everyone else. He just smiled gently and said something that his children and grandchildren remembered for a lifetime. Only by being calm can you see clearly what to do. Worrying won't stop the storm, but being calm helps you stand firm. Indeed, when the storm passed, Uncle Ba's house suffered far less damage than many others. His children and grandchildren understood his advice even more profoundly. His calmness was not because he underestimated the storm, but because he understood that worrying was useless. Only clear-headedness leads to correct action. That story became a vivid lesson for the entire village. It's not the loud-voiced person who is the strongest, but the person who remains calm in adversity, who truly possesses wisdom. If we apply Uncle Ba's story to modern life, we will see ourselves also facing invisible storms. Sometimes it's a family argument, sometimes an injustice at work, sometimes the worries of daily bread and butter. Usually, we react with anger, arguments, or sadness and despair. But if we try to stop, take a deep breath, and listen to our heartbeats, we will realize that calmness helps us avoid saying hurtful words, avoid acting hastily. And that very pause is wisdom. It is strength. You can practice a small exercise right now. Sit up straight, relax your shoulders, gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath through your nose. Feel the air entering your lungs. Then slowly exhale through your mouth. As you exhale, imagine that all worries and frustrations in your heart are also dissipating with that breath. Repeat this 3 times. Then place your hand on your chest and silently whisper a short phrase in your mind. I am calm. I am safe. This seemingly simple exercise has great power because it brings your mind back to the present, preventing fear from sweeping you away. It is also a way for you to stand firm in the face of storms. The Buddha once taught that anger is like throwing a burning coal at someone else. But first, you are the one who gets burned. Every time we lose our temper, we not only cause suffering to others, but also to ourselves. Maintaining calmness does not mean ignoring injustice. Rather, it means choosing to confront it more wisely, with less harm. A wise person knows how to take a step back to preserve harmony, family affection, and their own peace. That is true inner strength. One precious thing is that when we are calm, we also spread that sense of peace to those around us. In a family, if one person can remain calm, the whole family won't panic. In a group, if one person is clear-headed enough, everyone can easily find a solution. Therefore, calmness not only saves us, but is also a gift we give to others. You can try another exercise in the evening before going to bed. Take a small notebook and write down 3 things that worried you most during the day. Then breathe slowly and continue to write down 3 things you are grateful for. When you do this, you will realize that no matter how big the storms, there are still anchors of peace in life. Writing things down doesn't make the problems disappear immediately, but it helps you calmly look back, see what is truly important, and what is fleeting. Life is inherently a succession of waves. No one can expect the sea to be calm their whole life, but we can learn to become a steady boat, knowing how to adjust our sails to navigate through storms. When we keep our minds calm, we no longer fear storms, but understand that storms are just a part of the journey. Like Uncle Ba in the story, calmness is the wisdom that helps us know what to do, when to act, and when to rest. I believe that if you are hearing these words on a tumultuous day, your very presence here is already a step towards calming down. Allow yourself to breathe slowly. Relax. To see that you are not alone. Every storm will pass. Just keep your mind steady, and you will see the sunrise after the rain and wind. And when we learn to be calm in adversity, we will also learn to live slowly in everyday life. Practice enjoying a hot cup of tea, listening to the morning birds, smiling at yourself in the mirror. These simple things are where we cultivate serenity, so that when a storm comes, our minds are as firm as mountains. I want to remind you that calmness is not a distant state. It lies right in every breath. Every moment you choose to pause instead of rushing. To maintain calmness is to maintain freedom for your soul. And when we have freedom in our minds, all storms are but illusions, unable to cause us lasting suffering. True peace is not out there, but right in how we face each change in our lives. Have you ever sat quietly, reflecting on your life, and wondered why some people are cherished wherever they go, with everything going smoothly for them, while others, no matter how diligently they try, often encounter obstacles or are misunderstood? Is it simply luck or injustice? If we look deeply through the lens of Buddhist teachings, we will see that behind these seemingly random events are causal conditions and karma. These two words may sound distant, but in reality, they are always present in every relationship, every word, every action we take each day. And it is these causal conditions, combined with our temperament and lifestyle, that create the tapestry of our lives today. In Buddhist teachings, Nhanduin, causal conditions, refers to the connections between people and between events. Everything that comes to us is due to the convergence of many factors, not spontaneously generated, just like a flower blooming. We see the flower, but rarely think of the soil, water, sunlight, or the hands that tend it. People meet, live together, love and hate each other, also due to such intricate causal connections. With favorable conditions, people meet and are friendly and loving. With insufficient conditions, people meet and easily develop conflicts. Ngip Luk, karma, is the result of habits, actions, words, and thoughts accumulated over time. A gentle person often generates peaceful energy, attracting favorable causal conditions. An irritable, easily angered person tends to create unwholesome karma, making causal conditions difficult. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha once taught that all beings are the owners of their karma, heirs to their karma. Karma is not a rigid fate, but the seeds we have sown earlier bearing fruit. Good seeds yield sweet fruit. Bad seeds yield bitter fruit. Causal conditions, therefore, do not arise spontaneously, but are largely determined by our own attitudes and temperament. I want to tell you a story from the countryside. There were two farmers living next to each other, both rice cultivators. Mr. Lamb was a gentle, quiet, down-to-earth person. If a neighbor accidentally bothered him, he would just smile and be ready to help. He would enthusiastically do whatever anyone asked. Because of this, everyone in the village liked him, and whenever they had a chance, they would visit his house to chat and share joys and sorrows. In contrast, Mr. Hoa had a hot temper. If anyone said something he disagreed with, he would immediately snap and scold them. In communal work, he often wanted to outdo others and rarely gave way. Gradually, people in the village became reluctant to interact with him, avoiding him whenever there was work. Both men cultivated rice and lived on the same land, but their causal conditions were vastly different. One had many helpful people, a warm life, and good neighborly relations. The other often felt isolated and frustrated. One day, the whole village went out to the fields together to build up the dikes to block water because a big rain was coming. Mr. Lamb eagerly went to work, happily chatting with everyone. Mr. Hoa also went, but as soon as he saw a dike that wasn't to his liking, he loudly complained, resulting in everyone feeling annoyed and no one wanted to work near him. After the rain, Mr. Lamb's field was stable and and suffered little damage thanks to the help of many people. Mr. Hoa's field was poorly constructed and flooded. At that moment, he lamented his fate, saying he was unlucky. But in reality, the cause was not luck, but his own temperament. This story gives us a clear lesson. Causal conditions do not fall from the sky, nor are they determined by anyone else. They come from how we behave, from the energy we sow every day. Those who live gently and compassionately naturally create good causal conditions. Those who are angry and selfish, no matter how talented, will find it difficult to gain genuine support. Temperament is like seeds sown in the ground. Causal conditions are the fruits that grow. You might ask, so how can we transform our karma and improve our causal conditions? The Buddha taught that we only need to start with small things. Knowing how to listen, how to smile, how to control ourselves when anger arises. When frustration comes up, instead of uttering harsh words, you can try to pause, take a deep breath, and exhale slowly. In that very moment, you are sowing a wholesome seed, creating new conditions for yourself. Try a small exercise. Whenever you feel displeased with someone, quietly think to yourself, this person is also under a lot of pressure. I will remain calm so as not to cause more suffering. Just that one thought is enough to help you change the direction of your karma. Another way is to write down 3 things you're grateful for today. It could be a family meal, a friend's inquiry, or just a cool afternoon breeze. When we acknowledge good things, our minds become gentler. From that, causal conditions naturally transform. Grateful people are often easily loved because their energy makes others feel at peace. Causal conditions are like a river that fills up over time, but its direction largely depends on how we guide it. If we stubbornly cling to our anger, the river will be full of mud. If we know how to open our hearts, adapt to circumstances, and live harmoniously, the water will be clear and cool. When we change our way of life, our karma also slowly changes, leading to better opportunities. You try to observe in your own family. Gentle, patient parents often have close, filial children. Parents who are often irritable and complain tend to have a growing distance from their children. This is not accidental, but a clear manifestation of causal conditions and karma. We cannot choose where we are born, but we can choose how we behave to nurture good causal conditions. There is a comforting truth. Karma can be transformed. What we sowed in the past is done, but the present and future are still in our hands. Every kind word, every compassionate action, every wholesome thought is like a cool drop of water, gradually soothing the dry, parched land. An irritable person today, if they learn to cultivate themselves, can become a gentle person in the future. And when their temperament changes, their causal conditions also change. If you feel isolated, misunderstood by others, remember the story of Mr. Lam and Mr. Hoa. Ask yourself, who do I live more like? If you find yourself like Mr. Hoa, hot-tempered and easily irritated, don't be sad, because that is just a reminder that you need to learn to be calm, to learn to adapt to circumstances. And if you are like Mr. Lam, continue to cultivate your gentle heart because that is the most precious thing you have. Life is inherently uneven, but when we understand causal conditions and karma, we will see that everything has a reason. When you meet good people, cherish them. That is the wholesome fruit of the good seeds you have sown. When facing difficulties, be patient. That is an opportunity to repay karma and learn to grow. Nothing is accidental, and nothing lasts forever. Everything is just conditions coming and going. So instead of blaming fate, let's practice living in accord with conditions. This does not mean giving up, but being harmonious, open-hearted, and cherishing every existing connection. When our minds are at peace, causal conditions will gradually become favorable, and karma will transform in a positive direction. My dear friend, perhaps in this life, all of us have more or less heard the phrase Niem Fat, reciting the Buddha's name. Sometimes we see an elderly person sitting quietly on the porch, counting beads, gently chanting, Namo Amitabha Buddha. This chanting rhythm is steady and leisurely, seemingly unhurried, untroubled by the noises outside. At first, many might think it's just an old person's habit, or a way to pass the time. But if you sit a little closer, listen to that chanting, and look into the gentle eyes of the person chanting, you will feel an indescribable peace. Reciting the Buddha's name is not just a habit, but also a simple practice that sows wholesome seeds in the mind, thereby nurturing peace and opening a path to transformation. In Buddhist teachings, reciting the Buddha's name is seen as a way to bring the mind back to tranquility. When we softly chant the Buddha's name, our minds gradually detach from the whirlpool of weary thoughts. The mind, often full of greed, anger, delusion, striving, and attachment, calms down with each chant. Each recitation is like a gentle wave soothing the heart, reminding us that we are not alone, that there is a path to finding peace. And each time we chant, we sow another wholesome seed in the garden of our consciousness. Another important point is that after sowing seeds, we need to know how to dedicate merit. The ancients often said that merit should not be kept only for oneself, but should be shared. When we dedicate merit, it is like lighting one lamp and then using that lamp to ignite countless others. The light not only does not diminish, but spreads, illuminating everywhere. Dedicating merit is how we open our hearts, transforming our practice into a source of peace for our family, friends, and all beings. When dedicating merit, we are as if saying to ourselves, may this small merit not only help me, but also reach my loved ones and all who are suffering, so that all may find peace. I want to tell you a story about Mrs. Hoa, an ordinary woman in the countryside. Mrs. Ho is over 70, living in a small house with her son, daughter-in-law, and grandchildren. Old age often comes with worries. She, too, couldn't avoid moments of self-pity, or times when she saw her children busy, having little time to chat with her. But what was special was that, for many years now, every evening she would set aside a quiet time, light an incense stick before the Buddha altar, and then slowly count her rosary beads, chanting, Namo Amitabha Buddha. With each bead that passed through her hands, she would softly dedicate merit. May my family be peaceful and happy. May my children be harmonious. May my grandchildren be healthy and excel in their studies. At first, perhaps no one paid much attention. Her daughter-in-law sometimes thought that her mother-in-law was just praying to find some comfort. But then gradually, in that house, everyone noticed something changing. Family meals became warmer, no longer having the petty squabbles as before. Her son, who was usually short-tempered, now controlled himself somewhat. The grandchild who used to talk back was now more obedient, more diligent in studies. No one could explain why. But Mrs. Hoa herself understood. She knew that each Buddha recitation, each dedication, had sown wholesome seeds, and then the fruit of peace and warmth began to sprout in her family. Mrs. Hoa's story makes us realize that reciting the Buddha's name not only brings peace to oneself, but when merit is dedicated, that peace also spreads to those around us. A seemingly simple chant has the power to transform irritable temperaments, resolve long-standing conflicts, and bring peace to a home. That is the miracle that Buddhist teachings quietly embody in life. You can try it right now. Sit down, relax your shoulders, gently close your eyes, take a deep breath, and then exhale slowly. As your breath goes in and out, you can softly chant, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Chanting silently or aloud is fine. Just let your breath and your chanting become one rhythm. Each chant is like a step bringing you closer to peace. And after chanting for a few minutes, offer a small dedication. You can silently say in your heart, may this merit be dedicated to my parents for their peace, to my family for their harmony, and to myself to live in wakefulness. Just a simple dedication, but your heart will feel open, full of love, and the selfishness that has long clung to it will diminish. In modern life, many people often feel lonely and stressed. They try every way to relieve it, but then become even more tired. If we know how to pause for a moment, to recite the Buddha's name to soothe our souls, and then dedicate merit to our loved ones, we will see that we are no longer living just for ourselves. We feel connected to our parents, to our family, to everyone. It is this connection that will foster a greater love, a more enduring peace in our hearts. Every day, if you dedicate just 10 minutes in the morning or evening to reciting the Buddha's name and dedicating merit, you will realize something miraculous. The day's frustrations seem lighter. Small conflicts in the family are more easily resolved, and you will clearly feel that your heart is becoming softer, more tolerant. Just like Mrs. Hoa, with simple chants, we can contribute to building a home filled with peace. Try writing down one thing you want to dedicate merit for today. It could be for distant parents, for a friend facing difficulties, or for yourself, who is worried. When you write it down, you are sowing another wholesome seed. Then, each time you recite the Buddha's name, remember that. Remember the person to whom you want to send good wishes. Gradually, you will feel a deep connection, not only between you and that person, but also between you and all beings. And dear friend, believe that nothing is small in spiritual practice. A Buddha recitation, a dedication, no matter how simple, can create a great transformation, like a drop of water falling onto a lake, creating ripples that spread far and wide. Merit is the same. It can spread everywhere. What is important is to maintain a sincere heart, to chant with your whole heart, and to dedicate merit with vast love. If at any time you feel heavy-hearted, remember that there is always a way back. Just sit down, breathe gently, chant Namo Amitabha Buddha, and softly say a dedication. You will feel supported. Reciting the Buddha's name and dedicating merit are not distant, nor are they difficult. They are simple practices for everyone, anywhere, anytime. When we live in the spirit of adapting to circumstances, we will be less attached to the ego, less desirous for everything to go our way. And when we recite the Buddha's name and dedicate merit, we are practicing adapting to circumstances at a deeper level. We sow wholesome seeds without calculation. We dedicate merit without expecting repayment. That mind will naturally become light. It will naturally blossom into peace. That is the gift the Buddha wishes to bestow upon each of us, so that we may live a life of serenity, and abundant love. Have you ever suddenly realized that throughout our lives, we tirelessly search for something called happiness? And yet the more we chase it, the further it seems to drift away. Many still think happiness can only be found when we have a lot of money, status, a grand house, or luxurious trips. However, in reality, many people possess all these things, but have never known true peace in their hearts. Conversely, there are people who live very simply, with modest meals and small homes, yet their eyes still glow with joy. In their smiles, genuine happiness radiates. Perhaps the secret lies in knowing how to live in accord with conditions, how to cherish each present moment, nurturing happiness from the smallest things. In the Buddha's teachings, he always reminds us that all phenomena are impermanent. What we stubbornly cling to today will also change. Money can be lost, fame can fade, and this body cannot last forever. If we place our happiness on these changing things, we will surely always be restless, because whatever changes can disappear at any time. Only when we know how to return to the present, realizing that right now we are still breathing, still seeing, still hearing the voices of loved ones, still able to sit together. That is already true happiness. There is a simple story about Mr. Tuan, a factory worker at a garment factory. His income was never abundant, just enough to support his wife and 2 small children. Life in the city often made him feel inadequate, because all his friends around him bought houses, cars, and beautiful clothes. He once thought if he had more money, his family would surely be happier. But then, one summer evening, when he came home late from work, he entered his small house. The room was bright with a yellow light. The laughter of children echoed from the corner. His wife was setting the table for dinner, with only boiled vegetables, some tofu, and a bowl of fish sauce with lime and chili. As soon as he sat down at the table, he saw his young son innocently recounting school stories. His youngest daughter giggled happily when her mother gave her a piece of tofu. In that moment, he realized that true joy was not in luxurious things, but precisely in that simple, humble meal with his loved ones. From that day on, Tuan stopped complaining about his meager life. He began to practice looking at everything with grateful eyes. Even a simple meal was happiness, because he knew many people out there didn't even have a home to return to. Every morning he woke up, heard the birds outside, and felt peace in his heart. When he took his children to school, hearing their cheerful chatter, he felt happiness in every step. The more he lived this way, the more he realized that happiness was not a distant destination, but sweet drops of nectar that could be tasted in every present moment. Try to pause for a moment. Breathe in deeply. feel the breath entering your body. Then exhale slowly. In that moment, let go of all worries. Remember that this breath is a sign that you are still alive. And while you are alive, you still have the opportunity to love, to smile, to cherish what you have. If we constantly long for what has not yet come, we will inadvertently miss the joy right now. In this very moment, the Buddha once taught that knowing enough is wealth. A person may be poor materially, but if they know enough, they are still happy. A person may be richer than others, but if their mind is always lacking, no matter how much they have, they will never feel enough. The mind that knows enough is the key that opens the door to peace. Only when we live in accord with conditions, are grateful, and cherish the present, will happiness be present in every step, every breath, every smile. If you are feeling tired today, try a small exercise. Write down 3 things you are grateful for today. It could be a warm meal, a kind inquiry from a friend, or simply hearing birds sing outside. As you write them down, you will feel your heart soften and realize that happiness is not far away. It is always present in small things. It's just that sometimes we inadvertently forget. Happiness is also like a flower. If we know how to stop, we will see it blooming right by the roadside. If we rush along the endless path of ambition, we will miss its colors and fragrance. And once missed, sometimes we can never find it again for the rest of our lives. Therefore, living in accord with conditions does not mean giving up, but knowing how to accept what we have, cherish the present, and not be too harsh on ourselves and on life. Remember that true happiness is never far away. It is not in the glamorous things out there, but right in this very moment. In every breath, in every handshake, in every loving glance. Living in accord with conditions is not passive, but about opening your heart, knowing that everything that happens has causal conditions, and every present moment is worth cherishing. Then, happiness will naturally be present, gentle and lasting, like the morning light warming an entire day. My dear friend, if we sit by the bank of a river, quietly watching the water flow by, we will find so many things to reflect on. The river never clings to any drop of water. It just quietly receives and then releases everything to flow towards the vast ocean. Similarly, the bird in the sky never worries that the wind will change direction or that dark clouds will obscure its path. It just spreads its wings, flies according to nature's way, landing when conditions are right, flying when conditions are right. Life is also like that. If we constantly cling, stubbornly holding on to everything tightly, our minds will be weary and suffering. But if we learn to live like the river, like the bird, our hearts will naturally become easygoing and peaceful. The Buddha taught that everything in this world comes into being due to causal conditions. When conditions end, things dissipate. Life is inherently impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing truly belongs to us. Stubborn attachment doesn't make anything last. On the contrary, the more we cling, the more our minds are bound in suffering. A wise person is one who knows how to adapt to circumstances, meaning they know how to go with the flow, how to accept what comes and smile and let go of what goes. Adapting to circumstances is not about giving up or surrendering, but a steadfast attitude in life. Not allowing external circumstances to pull our minds, just as the river still flows towards the ocean, whether it encounters reefs or fierce waves, and as the bird still flies in the sky, even if clouds block its path. There's a story about Uncle Min, a man over 60, living in a poor rural area. He spent his whole life connected to the fields. Life was not affluent. Previously, he was very distressed because his children were not as successful as others. Neighbors had children who were directors or doctors, while his children were just ordinary factory workers. He used to blame life and fate, even often lamenting how unfortunate his life was. But then one day, he was invited to a Dharma talk at a pagoda near the village. The gentle monk said, "Each person has their own unique causal conditions, just like flowers. Some bloom in spring, some in summer. You cannot compare them. What's important is not what profession your child does, but whether your child lives filial, lives kindly, and knows how to love." After hearing that, Uncle Min felt a burden lifted from his heart. From then on, he began to practice letting go of comparisons, no longer clinging to life's measures of better than or worse than. Instead, he learned to be content with what he had, proud that his children, though not wealthy, were filial, cared for their parents, and lived kindly. The more he let go, the lighter his heart felt, and his smile became gentler. Neighbors still talked and praised their children and grandchildren's achievements. But Uncle Min was no longer sad. He understood that true happiness was not in his children's fame, but in the peace and love within his family. It was at that moment that he learned to live in accord with circumstances, free-spirited, like a bird in the open sky. You can try sitting quietly for a moment, taking a deep breath, and exhaling slowly. During that time, imagine yourself as a flowing river. Worries are like yellow leaves falling onto the water, letting the current carry them away. You can also imagine yourself as a bird flying freely in the vast sky. No need to carry heavy burdens, just one breath, one small imagination can make your mind lighter, more peaceful. If each day we can take a moment to remind ourselves that happiness is knowing enough and peace is adapting to circumstances, then life will naturally have less suffering. We don't need to wait until we have a lot of money to smile. Don't need to wait until everything is perfect to feel joy. Right now, if we see the sunlight streaming through the window, hear a child calling Dad, hear a mother asking, "How are you?" that is already more than enough for a lifetime. When we live like the river, we learn to receive and release, not allowing our minds to get caught. When we live like the bird, we learn to trust our wings to fly with the wind, to be free without fear. Both images teach us that adapting to circumstances is the path that leads to peace, because happiness is not far away. It is only present when we know how to stop, how to cherish, how to smile at what we have. And now, as I conclude these shared teachings, I hope you will carry a seed of peace in your heart. It is the belief that living in accord with conditions is living fully. Letting go of attachments is opening the door to peace. If we know enough, we are already rich. If we adapt to circumstances, we already have a free heart. I send you wishes of peace. May all of us, wherever we are, rich or poor, healthy or sick, learn to live like the gentle river, like the free bird. May each person know how to find happiness right in the present, know how to let go of suffering so their mind may be light. And may all beings in this world find joy, be freed from suffering, and turn towards the light of compassion and wisdom. Try smiling gently, taking a deep breath and exhaling slowly. That smile is happiness. That breath is peace. As long as we can smile, as long as we can breathe in mindfulness, we are living fully in this life. And that is enough, my friend. That is enough,